Hello and good morning, YouTube. It's September 4th. Is it September 4th or is it the 5th? Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's September 4th, 2020. I am, what am I? I'm 19 days sober. So almost 30 weeks. I almost formed a habit. Pretty cool, eh? So 19 days. 19 days since the end of my last relapse. Feeling better. My head's getting more clear. Um, you know, Still lonely. It's the weekend, it's Friday, and I don't get to see my kids. I was so used to spending every day with my kids, like almost since they're born. For a long time, I was a stay-at-home dad, and I really had to spend a lot of time with them. I remember I used to drop them off and pick them up from school all the time, and before I had a car, we did it on the bus. So we spent a lot of time together. I was always like, carrying them and holding them, and they're older now, so like I wouldn't get to do those things anyways. But I I would at least be able to spend time with them and hug them, kiss them. I miss my kids. But like the rest of the world, I don't know if that'll ever go back to normal way, right? I don't know if things will ever be the way they were before. I left I left their city, like London, Ontario. And I'm in Toronto, Ontario now, and the that was their mom. So like at least a year, right? But and that's it. At least a year. Who knows what a year will bring, right? A lot can change in a year, and I don't always have control over what happens. You know, Sometimes we just have to have faith in God, right? And and God's plan isn't always the same as ours, but it's in His hands now, right? Like, you know, the the control freak in me, the part of me that wants to control everything, wants to run away and go to London. You know, Maybe I should run away to London, but I don't have a home there. I don't even have a home right now. Ayo, there's no one I can trust right now. Cops are around my door like they go bust it down. So sick of the hustle and all the fake introductions. Like people make their assumptions. Like whoa, I feel like I could get killed. I feel like life isn't real. Like I could get killed. Like keep it a bill. Sorry, that's my little. That's a song, "Bad News" by Mad Child, Nova Rockefeller, and Tom McDonald. And that's how I feel sometimes. I don't even have a home right now. I have a place to live. I don't have a home. So you guys know, like I'm living in a sober house, and I kind of wanted to explain that a little bit. What a sober house is. A sober house is not rehab. It's not the same thing, right? There's no programming here. There's no. It's a place to rest my head at night, right? It's a great place. I love it here. I, you know, it's a safe place, right? It's a place where if they suspect you of using, they will piss test you, and if they find drugs in your system, then it's boot, like no questions asked, you're gone like instantly, right? That's one thing that helps me stay sober too, right? Like I can't fuck around. Fuck, I'm starting to look more and more like my dad all the time. Except I got hair. Um, and rehab, residential treatment is, it's somewhere where you're doing programming for 8 hours a day, at least, right? And you're learning different tools and different aspects of how to stay sober. Now there are 12 step based programs, And then there's like cognitive behavior therapy, CBT type programs. And there might be the mixture of the two. For me, and it took me a long time to get here, but for me, I think the 12-step approach is the best for me because I think I have a spiritual dilemma, right? My drug use makes my head a little crazy, but it's not the other way around. I'm not crazy and then use drugs. My drug use makes me crazy. I can't say that CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, wouldn't or isn't beneficial for me, but it's that spiritual dilemma, right? It's that God-sized hole that I feel that keeps me sick. I feel alone. I feel not part of. I feel different than everyone. I feel unloved, unliked, things like this. And people saying these things don't make it better, don't make it so, right? Not for me. I'm a highly sensitive person, and like I've mentioned in the past, I have a disease of perception. The way I perceive the world may or may not be right, but my perceptions make me sick. And I don't think the way I perceive the world is so much wrong, but the way I perceive situations, the way I perceive certain situations is absolutely out of whack. I think I have a problem with seeing myself as a victim a lot, and I'm not a victim, and nor do I want to be a fucking victim. Like, that's bullshit, right? Why should I let someone else have control over my life like that? And I know God didn't do this to me. I did this to myself, right? I make the choices in my life, and I see where that takes me. But I don't always have clarity of mind, right? Because that's what the disease of perception is. Like, it's unclarity. It's I don't know. I know very little, right? I'm still learning. Yeah, I miss my kids. I miss my kids a lot. I was supposed to have an in-person meeting today with a addictions counselor to help me with my gambling problem. And I just got an email from her. Like that, no, she's coming down with some cold-like symptoms and she can't make it into the office. So that kind of bums me out too, right? Like, I don't want to do Zoom meetings. I have no interest in them. I like one-on-one, person to person. That's how it's got to be for me. There's just that whole thing of just, it's not the same. So now I don't know what to do. She sent me a link to do a Zoom meeting, but I really don't want to do it. I probably should, but I don't know. I gotta go get my coffee. Yeah, so I sent a link to my YouTube channel to some more family members. I don't know why I did that. It's partly because I don't want to explain to them how I'm doing. Like, see, they show interest in they do. They text me and they show interest. Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? And my shitty attitude says, I don't want to explain this shit to people. I don't want to tell you because I don't believe, for one thing, that you have an interest. I really don't. You didn't care before, so why the fuck do you care now, right? That's how my head is. Maybe that's my disease or perception right there, right? So I sent him a link, and I don't even want him watching these videos really because like like I just said, it's like you never cared before, so why care now, right? And that's my disease of perception, right? That. And I still carry some shame of things I did and said when I was fucking using. And like, I don't know if people think that's the real me, or if it isn't. Like, that's not me. I was fucking sick. I was fucking delusional, man. Like, you have no idea what crystal meth does to a fucking person's head. Well, you've seen me from outside, but from being inside there, whoa. Scary place to be sometimes. Slowly but surely, one day at a time, I get a little bit better, right? Shame and guilt are a fucking bitch. Shame and guilt, they're what leave me in that cycle, right? You know, I do something, maybe I do drugs, or I do something while I'm on drugs, and then I remember, and then the shame and the guilt kick in. And shame and guilt are they're just crippling. They're so crippling, so destructive for me. And then you got to cover those feelings, right? You got to stop feeling that way. And so you got to use, whether it be hitting that fucking pipe, or fucking jabbing myself in the arm, or drinking, popping a pill, whatever it is, right? Anything to stop feeling and thinking the stuff that I think in my head. And it's not like these thoughts are 100% all of the time. But when they're there, you just want them gone. Get out of here, right? Especially like the self-hating feelings. It's so horrible to hate yourself. It's such a bad feeling, right? But I'm getting over it. I don't hate myself today, right? And in general, I don't think I hate myself. But when I'm using, I sure don't fucking like myself. Luckily, those habits have been broken. I'm out of that cycle right now. But I still have more work to do, right? I gotta keep doing things. Like, I went to a meeting last night. I'm really enjoying the meetings. Like, I find that it's the one time during the day that I actually smile and laugh. I'm getting more comfortable. And that's the other thing too, like, not knowing a lot of people in Toronto is the one place that I know I can always go, right? Their door is always open. At least I found a meeting that is open and in person, because with this whole thing going on out there, you know, there aren't a lot of meetings. But I found one, and so their door is always open, and I'm welcome there. They like to say it's the last house on the street. Is something they say in AA, you know? It was the last house on the street. Last people that would let me in. You know, slowly they're becoming my family. They're like-minded people, for the most part. Sick people who want to get sick, and sick people who have gotten better. Sick people who want to get better. Did I say that right? I don't know what I just said a second ago. There's sick people who want to get better. And there are lots of people with, you know, many, many days sobriety, years sobriety. People who have changed their lives, turned around completely. There are other people who've been sober for a long time, and they're probably the same person they always were, because I see some pretty crappy attitudes in there. Like, I see sober people in there, and I'm like, oh, wow, I don't want what you have. But then there are other people, and it's like, wow, I want what you got. This video is already getting long. I wanted to explain what a sober house was compared to rehab. I hope I did that well. And then I went on a little tangent. So let's just get right to the reading. Anyone can carry his burden, however heavy, until nightfall. Anyone can do his work, however hard, for one day. Robert Louis Stevenson. Today's the 4th, isn't it? Fuck, what day is it? The 4th, I'm sorry. I can't redo this video. Just bear with me. September 4th. Miracles are instantaneous. They cannot be summoned, but come of themselves, usually at unlikely moments and to those who least expect them. Catherine Ann Porter. A year or so into my sobriety, I was still struggling to fully overcome my atheism. During that period, I went through an extremely traumatic personal experience. It brought me frighteningly close to drinking. For 2 days, I forgot all about the principle of surrendering to win. I clenched my fist, relying on willpower to overcome an irresistible desire to get drunk. I knew that if I did drink, I would likely die, but I was at the point where I didn't care. Been there before. In desperation, I called a friend. I know you don't believe in God, he said, but that's the only thing that works for me. I'd pray for God to take away the compulsion. I got down on my knees and asked for God's help. Even though I didn't have much faith in what I was doing, later that evening, still close to the edge, I pulled my car into a covered parking place. Slouched in a corner not far from me, a man was drinking from a pint bottle of wine. He was drunk and sick, and he looked enough like me to be my twin brother. When I finally stopped staring and turned away, my desire to drink had been lifted. That miracle saved my life. I realized, looking back, that it also was a starting point for my faith. Thought for today: coincidences are sometimes miracles of God, who prefers to remain anonymous. Reconstruction. Daily reflections. Yes, there is a long period of reconstruction ahead. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 83. You see that little fuck? Because there's a long road of reconstruction. And that's what fixing me is about, right? I've taken away the drug and drink. Now the reconstruction begins. The reconstruction of my life is the prime goal in my recovery, as I avoid taking that first drink or drug one day at a time. The task is most successfully accomplished by working the steps of our fellowship. The spiritual life is not a theory, it works. It works. But I have to live it. Step 2 started me on my journey to develop a spiritual life. Step 9 allows me to move into the final phase of the initial steps, which taught me how to live a spiritual life. Without the guidance and strength of a higher power, it would be impossible to proceed through the various stages of reconstruction. I realized that God works for me and through me. Proof comes to me when I realized that God did for me what I could not do for myself by removing that gnawing compulsion to drink or stick needles in my fucking arm. Which I haven't done in a very long time. That removing that gnawing compulsion to drink or use. I must continue daily to seek God's guidance. He grants me a daily reprieve and will provide the power I need for reconstruction. That's faith, man. God will provide me the power I need. Have a blessed day.